Patrick Harvie, co-convenor of the Scottish Greens.
In what way will the panellists use tax-raising powers to improve the lives of the Scottish people?
Thanks.
Thanks very much. I fear that the next 6 weeks are going to hear a lot of people talking over one another. I'd like to bring this to some key principles about what we should be looking to achieve for our society with the tax powers that we've got. The tax powers that are coming and the tax powers that we've had since 1999. The ability to set local tax policies to fund the local services that so many people rely on, and we've not really used those. So we need to be ready to scrap the council tax, as Nicola has campaigned on that slogan many, many times over. It's time to kill off the council tax. It's more than 25 years out of date. But we also need to join that with the national tax powers that are coming.
OK, but you haven't set out your proposals yet. Are you in favour of raising tax, using the new powers, reducing tax, or leaving it broadly the same?
We certainly need to raise the revenue that we need to prevent the cuts. I think I and Ruth and Kez and Nicola and Willie and David should all be paying more tax, not just people on £150,000. We are on high salaries that these people are paying for from their taxes. People on our salaries should be able to pay more tax. But we also need to close the wealth gap as well as the income gap in order to do that.
All right,
and
let's bring in the audience after we've heard from
the economy as a whole and the public sector books would be a lot healthier if we did force big tax-dodging companies to pay their fair share. And at the moment, I'm afraid, in Scotland, we're still giving them grants. We're still giving them access to taxpayers' money to do what they do. Well, look, the thing is, for most of my lifetime, we've had an economic model. I call it the failed economic model, the outgoing economic model, which is about lower taxes, lower taxes, lower taxes, governments scaring their citizens with arguments about tax competition and big business is all so clever, we need to attract them, they'll all go away.
You're against capitalism.
The result of that is chronic inequality, both in incomes and in wealth. We've got people working every hour they can get.
Could you end that system from Holyrood?
The point is that we need to have the boldness of the courage of our convictions in Scotland to take our economy in a different direction, now that we do have the powers to do it. We need to do that with the tax system. We also need to do it with public investment in the priorities like housing, like energy, like infrastructure, which it takes the public purse to invest in. The market will not do that for us. Ruth doesn't want a sign on the border saying Scotland is closed for business. I don't want a sign on the border saying Scotland, the country that trashes its public services. That's the choice that we have to make at this election.
If elected, what are your party's plans to mitigate the upcoming changes in welfare that's going to hit Scotland?
We also need to ask ourselves what the welfare state was for. I think it's inspiring what the post-Second World War generation did in creating a welfare state, and I think it's nothing less than a tragedy that it is being turned into something now whose purpose seems to be to bully people into low-paid work, subsidise that low-paid work, and devil take the hindmost for those who cannot work or can't find enough work.
What specifically would Greens do for Deborah?
Our long-term goal is for a citizen's income. A citizen's income, a basic income for everybody. That not only gives everybody the ability to balance paid work, volunteering, caring, recovering from illness, as well as creative work. It allows people to make that judgment, but it also values a great deal of work which is critical to our economy, which is not currently paid, and it allows people to make their own choices. We can't get there in one single bound, and I wish to goodness that the Scottish Parliament was getting the ability to design all of its welfare policies, because to invest in the support that people need, whether because of disability or anything else, to participate in our economy and society, that is not a cost, it is an investment in a stronger, more decent society.
OK, thank you.
Hi, how are you going to improve education funding for young people, particularly from deprived areas in Scotland?
Harvie.
I think all political parties that you should take seriously, at least, have recognised that there is more that can be done to deliver investment specifically in closing the attainment gap. And I think, to their credit, the Scottish Government have acknowledged that that can be done better than it's been done so far. So I do think that we're going to see progress on this in the new Parliament. But my concern is that simply talking about that additional funding, about closing the attainment gap, If we're doing that at the same time as local councils are losing their revenue, then schools, like every other public service, will continue to be under pressure, and they won't be able to get the maximum impact of that additional resource. And I think schools also have coped with a great deal of change already. Schools and teachers that I've spoken to around the country when I've been out visiting local branches, they've been talking about the amount of change they've had to deal with, the amount of time pressure they've been under to cope with that change. Schools and teachers need to feel supported to do what they're doing.
And Patrick Harvie, you've been talking tonight. You've been talking tonight. Hang on a second.
Not
you've
one
been
of them,
talking
Glenn,
a lot
has
about
told
getting...
me that standardised testing should be the priority at the
OK,
moment.
but I wanted to pick up on the idea of getting more money into schools. I mean, you've been talking about investment quite a lot tonight. Is there an amount of additional revenue that you want to raise with whatever tax package you come up with during the election campaign? Do you have an amount of money that is needed for the sort of investment that you're promising tonight?
We'll be publishing our detailed tax plans next week. The point of principle
How much do they need to raise in addition to
we'll be publishing our detailed plans next week. The point at local level, though, is that no, I don't think central government should tell local government how much money they're allowed to raise.
Okay.
In most European countries, a central government finance minister would find themselves in court and losing if they tried to tell local councils how much tax they're allowed to raise.
So when push comes to shove, will you support fracking or not?
Who'd like to hear from Patrick Harvie? Thank you.
The reality which governments around the world have finally come to acknowledge, though they're not yet doing enough about it, is that the fossil fuel age is coming to an end. You don't have to like that. You don't have to have chosen it. You don't have to have been, campaigning on this issue for years. It's a reality. And the mantra of maximum fossil fuel extraction, which these parties all support, is not even keeping people's jobs safe. So the challenge for us is to invest in the alternative. We've got far more fossil fuel in the ground globally than we can ever afford to burn. So we need to be investing in the alternative.
Shouldn't we be looking at this as part of an energy mix, given that we are now no longer burning coal in Scotland, and given that the North Sea industry has shed so many jobs, some of which might be able to pick up new work in the fracking industry?
A great many of the people working in that area can see positive, long-lasting, secure futures from renewable energy, from electricity storage, also from oil and gas decommissioning. We're already at risk of losing oil and gas decommissioning jobs to companies in other countries. We should be securing those jobs here.
I'm going to come
Fracking is an absolute no from the Greens, but I do hope that the Scottish Government are willing to say the same thing.
Well, we'll come to the...
President-elect Donald Trump calls you. What's your opening gambit?
He's not going to call me. I remain to this day the only person who's been a member of the Scottish Parliament to be formally cleared of blasphemy after a complaint put in by Donald Trump to the Parliamentary Standards Commissioner about me.
You're proud of that, by the sounds of things.
It gives me a little thrill of pride when I remember that.
What are you saying if he does phone you?
I think my jaw would be on the ground. I just don't think... Look,
you would be speechless, OK.
Let's just make one serious point, which is let us all unite in hope that the American people see through the racist, xenophobic, misogynistic, bombastic rhetoric of this odious man.
For now, though, my thanks to all on the panel and to the audience here in Glasgow. From all of us, have a very good night. Good night.